Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Ruben.
Hi, Ruben.
Ruben.
Hi, Ruben.
Hi, how you doing?
All right. Good morning, board members. The time is 8:30, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, to the September 29th, 2021 special meeting of the Arizona State Board of Pharmacy. My name is Lori Walmsley, and I'm the chair of the board today. Ms. Kianavong, can you take attendance to establish a quorum, please?
Certainly. Mr. Solari,
At your service.
Mr. Dang,
At your service.
Mr. Minkus,
Here.
Mr. Leba,
Here.
Ms. Lahan,
Present.
Ms. Walmsley,
Here.
Mr. Tong,
Here.
Mr. Goodman is absent, and Ms. Snare.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kianavong. Board members, do we have any declaration of conflicts of interest today?
I do. This is Cedar. Today I have item 2I, case 210451, and that has already been submitted in writing.
Thank you, Ms. Lahan. Anything additional, board members? All right, hearing none, let's move on to tab 2, item 2I, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed findings of the public emergency and order of summary suspension for case number 21-0451 involving Esther Hio, license number S025068. Board members, this case is before us today due to failure to comply with an interim order for an evaluation. Do we have Ms. Hio on the line or someone representing her today?
I'm here.
I'm sorry.
I'm here.
Thank you. Can you please introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, hello. My name is Esther Hio. I am the person on trial, or the person for the situation.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hio. I appreciate your attendance today. Is there anybody else on the line with you today?
No.
Okay, thank you. Board members, again, this matter before us today is due to Ms. Hio's failure to comply with her interim order. Ms. Hio, as we get started, I guess I'd just like to hear from you why, from your perspective, you didn't comply with the order that was issued by the board.
Sure. So I actually did go to the psychologist. When we started the interview, I was a little shocked that there was Facebook screenshots of my Facebook page. And I wanted to reschedule the appointment once I had more evidence and actual people to explain the situation. I thought it was going to be very difficult to kind of explain it at the spot. The pictures were taken out of context. And I told the woman, Dr. DeMarti, that I would reschedule the appointment once I had more evidence, and I can go into it and explain it. I thought the psychologist evaluation was an objective view of my situation. I didn't know that there was screenshots taken after the board meeting was done and finalized. And it felt kind of a little bit biased to me. So I just wanted to have my evidence prepared to go in front of her the next time. So I told her I wanted to reschedule the appointment.
Walmsley, if I may interject a little bit. Obviously, what we issued Ms. Hio was an evaluation, psychiatric evaluation, not a, she makes it sound like she was going in for some sort of judgment, some sort of trial. I mean, there was no evidentiary information. It was her story to tell about what she's going through or what her state of mind is. So I think we need to kind of bring her back and stick to the topic at hand. Why wasn't the evaluation completed?
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. Ms. Hio, did you reschedule your evaluation?
She told me that she didn't have her schedule at hand to call her back. So
And have you done so?
no, because I got the suspension letter the next day, and I cleared my work schedule to come in front of you guys to talk to you.
So you've not rescheduled the evaluation?
So I wanted to wait until this was finalized to reschedule the appointment, but I am absolutely willing to reschedule it and give her more evidence to my situation when I go in.
Ms. Hio, do you understand the purpose of the evaluation?
Yes, to validate my state of mind and to see if there's proof to my story.
Thank you. Board members, what additional questions do you have?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Hugh, you said that you have to organize your work schedule to attend this meeting. Where are you currently working at?
So I'm working at CVS, but I completely cleared my schedule. I take these accusations against me and my state of mind extremely seriously. I didn't want to risk putting my job or my company or anyone in danger. Once I saw the email saying that you were possibly going to suspend my license, I immediately got scared and told my boss immediately of the situation. And I just wanted to say, like, there has been absolutely no complaints about my work performance. You know, I've been very competent and been working very well. But because of this situation, I've never been in this situation before, and I take it very seriously, and I was scared. So I immediately just cleared my whole work schedule. I was planning on working Saturday and Tuesday, and I completely did not work just because of this situation. It scared me.
Dr. Deng, did you have any additional questions?
No.
Thank you. Board members, additional questions for Ms. Hio or discussion?
If I can say in my defense, I have a little bit more proof to my situation.
Ms. Hio, that's not really the point that we're here for today. I appreciate that. Really, ultimately, as I mentioned at the start of this is about your failure to comply with the board's order today. This isn't rehashing the cases as we've already discussed before. The point of our discussion here today is how we want to address your failure to comply with the order.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Can I share my thoughts for the board?
Yes, please.
I'm thinking between now and the next board meeting, we have a couple of weeks, December, so we have more than a month. At this point, my thoughts are to suspend her license, and if between now and the next board meeting, she does complete the evaluation, brings to the attention of the board the evaluator's report, then we can reconsider it at that time. If not, at that time, we can proceed to revoke her license if she hasn't completed the evaluation by the December meeting.
So if I could say something,
Ms. Hio, we're discussing no, at this point, no. Board members, additional discussion or thoughts?
Lori, if I could just add to what Mo said, I agree 100% with what he said. That this has gone on long enough. She has not done what we've asked her to do. Everything has an excuse in a later date. And frankly, my personal opinion, I'm just fed up with it, and I agree with Mo. It's time to suspend.
I tend to agree with you, Ruben, and I'm of the opinion that perhaps we refer this case to the Office of Administrative Hearings rather than having it come back before us.
If I may, Madam Chairman, just to clarify, Mr. Solari Mr. Solari suggested that if the suspension went into effect today, in the interim, she could go and get the evaluation and present it at the December meeting. If the board were to summarily suspend today, then we have to go to hearing within about 35 days. And that can take place at either a special meeting or at the Office of Administrative Hearings. But if you summarily suspend today, that triggers the requirement that a formal hearing be held. And she necessarily wouldn't then be able to bring an evaluation to the board in December because the hearing would have already been held.
But she still would have time to potentially complete it. And if it were completed by the time of the hearing, she could bring that as additional evidence.
She could,
Potentially.
but potentially, yes, but it would be untimely.
Ms. Galvin, are you saying that regardless of the timing of the next meeting, can you rephrase that? I just need to hear it one more time. I'm sorry.
So Mr. Solari suggested that the board could summarily suspend her today. And while she is suspended, she could go and get the evaluation, complete the evaluation, and bring the evaluation back to the board for consideration at its December meeting. Under the statute, if you summarily suspend her today, we have to go to formal hearing within 35 days to demonstrate that she failed to comply with the board order. She failed to get this evaluation by September 23rd and complete the evaluation. So there's a little bit of a disconnect. We can't summarily suspend her today under this emergency action and then hold it over until December because we have to hold that hearing within 35 days. You could alternatively, perhaps, if Ms. Hio would agree to suspend her license through a consent agreement until she gets the evaluation, then we wouldn't have to summarily suspend today. But we could enter an agreement where she would sign an interim consent agreement where she would be suspended until she completed the evaluation and brought it back to you until December. If she said she would sign this interim consent agreement for a suspension, we wouldn't have to go to hearing. We would wait till December with the evaluation. But if she doesn't sign that interim consent agreement, we could have kind of a fail-safe in place where the summary suspension would kick in if she didn't sign the interim consent agreement.
I don't have faith at this point that she'll sign, and if she says she will, at interim agreement.
But we, Ms. Galvin indicated we have a safety net that the summary suspension would kick in if she doesn't.
The 35 days from today would be Thanksgiving, more or less.
Let's see, where are we? Maybe a week or two before.
Before, so we have time to have a special hearing in case we needed to, if we go summarily suspended.
You could, correct, or refer it to that.
But if we summarily, but if I'm hearing you correctly, Ms. Galvin, if we summarily suspend her, she would not have the ability to bring forward new evidence. From the psychological evaluation would still not be timely.
If you summarily suspend her, the issue is going to be her failure to timely comply, regardless of what the evaluation says. If you do an interim consent agreement and she agrees to suspend her license until she completes the evaluation, then we could bring forward the evaluation in December, see what that says, and then go from there. And Seth, if you have anything to add, please feel free.
Madam Chair, can I interject 1 second? If we
Yes, go ahead.
If we suspend today, then and then schedule it, then it goes directly to hearing, correct?
Correct.
That's what I would like to see.
I'd agree with Mr. Nakis.
So
Any additional discussion or questions, or are we ready for a motion?
I wanted a little clarification. If it goes to a hearing in front of us versus the the Office of Administrative Hearing, what's the difference, or what would be the difference?
The board would incur fees if the Office of Administrative Hearings held the hearing. Sometimes, regardless of the cost to the board, it's more efficient if we expect it to be a long, complicated hearing. This hearing having to do with just her failure to comply with the order, I would expect not to be a long and complicated hearing, but of course, there are factors that could change my perspective.
Well, there's also the issue, if the board holds the hearing, given the time frame, you will have to schedule a special meeting to do so.
Ms. Walmsley, you had suggested the administrative hearing. Are you still likely to do that? Do you still think that that's where it should go?
I just pointed it out that was an option. Perhaps we should have some legal advice in executive session.
Okay, I'll make a motion for legal advice.
Just to fully understand.
I'll make the motion, executive session for legal advice, please.
Second.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ms. Hio, we'll be back in just a moment. We are going to go get some legal advice and then we'll be back out to you.
Okay, that sounds perfect.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Jennifer, is the meeting room closed out? Do we have everybody back? Yeah, I think we've got everybody. Okay. Ms. Hugh, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Thank you. Just want to make sure you're here. Board members, any additional questions for Ms. Hugh after the executive session, or do we want to move on to additional discussion or a potential motion?
I'm willing to make the motion if there's no additional discussion or questions.
Board members? Hearing none, go ahead, Mr. Solari.
So based on the information and evidence presented to the board today and as set forth in the interim finding, the facts and conclusion of the law, I move that the board adopt the interim finding of the fact and conclusion of the law. Further, I move that the board find that certain finding of the fact and conclusion of the law require emergency action in order to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And given the board's findings that the interim finding of the fact and conclusion of the law require emergency action in order to protect the public health, safety, and welfare, I move that the board summarily suspend the license of Ms. Esther Hio, which is license number S025068, effective upon service of the order. Do you want me to keep going, or do we need to vote at this point?
You can include the last motion.
So then finally, I move that the executive director refer this matter for formal hearing to be held before the Office of Administrative Hearings, to be commenced as expeditiously as possible from the date of the issuance of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Solari. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Nair. I have a motion and a second. Ms. Canavan, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes, certainly. Mr. Solari?
Aye.
Mr. Dang? Mr. Dang?
Aye.
Mr. Minkus?
Aye.
Mr. Leyba?
Aye.
Ms. Lehan is recused. Ms. Walmsley?
Aye.
Mr. Tong?
Aye.
Ms. Nair?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Ms. Hio, the board's order will be served to you in writing, and the staff will be in communication with you. Thank you for your time and attendance today.
Okay, thank you.
Next up is item 2.2, I guess, 2II. This is discussion and possible action regarding the proposed findings of public emergency order and summary suspension for case number 21-0446 involving Andrew Scott, license number S017898, and possible consideration of a proposed interim consent agreement. Board members, in your packet, there is a signed interim consent agreement for interim suspension of license and a substance use evaluation. I see it looks like we have Mr. Scott present here today. Mr. Scott, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Andrew Scott.
And this
Thank you,
is
Mr.
Sarah.
Scott. Do you have any bit? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. This is Sarah Stark. I'm counsel for Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Ms. Stark. Appreciate that. Board members, any questions for Mr. Scott or Ms. Stark? Again, we do have a signed consent agreement in your packet that was added. Any discussion?
Actually, I do have a question, Madam Chair. The question I have for Mr. Scott is, reading the narrative, it says that your drug screen came back positive for the benzos, particularly the lorazepam, alprazolam, but you only have prescription for zolpidem. Can you elaborate on that?
Mr. Dang, perhaps we should go into executive session for confidential medical information.
Okay.
If we want to talk about his medical history.
Madam
Sure.
Chair, before you do that, if I could just give you some brief background, this is Seth. The board did receive a complaint last week, September 21st, indicating that Mr. Scott had resigned in lieu of termination after he admitted to diverting and consuming a substance that did not belong to him, which he acknowledged. There was also a for-cause drug screen that was taken that included the item that he did take, as well as other drugs, one of which he did have a prescription for. It's my understanding that they are further challenging that drug screen. Ms. Stark can address that if she would like to. In your packet that Mr. Dang was referring to was a preliminary consent. The signed consent has been modified slightly. It does not include the specific names of the drugs. It just indicates that there were other items that we tested positive for. And if Ms. Stark wants to address their plans going forward to challenge that, this was initially presented to the board for possible summary suspension, given the theft and consumption of a drug that did not belong to him. Also, as you indicated in your packet, is proposed consent for interim suspension to allow him to have an evaluation that may address any potential concerns of drug use that may include what is in that in the drug screen. So it's kind of the board's choice how you want to proceed. Does the diversion and consumption rise to level of revocation, or does the board want to see an evaluation results of that to determine whether he's safe to practice? So those are kind of options available to you. We thought that it may make things easier if there was a consent agreement, if the board wanted to go down that route.
Thank you,
I have a
Mr.
question.
Hargrave.
I have a question. Mr. Hargrave or Ms. Galvin, if we summarily were to suspend today, would he have the time to do an evaluation?
No, if you were to
Or-
summarily suspend, we would have to hold the hearing within 35 days. And the issue at the hearing would strictly be the diversion and from the employer.
Okay.
Which is the value of the proposed consent agreement, is it gives him the opportunity to have the evaluation and for us to address it, but yet he's not practicing until we have that information.
Thank you.
I'm satisfied, just to share my thoughts, I'm satisfied with the consent agreement as is. It's very similar to what we've done in similar cases in the past. And I would be in favor of accepting the signed consent agreement and going forward from here.
Agree.
I'm willing to make the motion if nobody has any other questions or additional information.
Madam Chair,
I would agree. I would agree with that. Go ahead, Joe.
Mr. Hargraves brought up a option for Ms. Stark to respond. Should we allow that before a vote?
I was just going to ask that if Ms. Stark or Mr. Scott would like to make a brief statement before we commence with the motion.
Hi, yes, this is Sarah Stark. And the only thing I will say is that we will confirm that the review of the test results are currently pending, and we will provide the board with additional information as we have it.
Thank you. Mr. Solari, do you want to go ahead with your motion?
Sure, I will make the motion to accept the signed consent agreement for Mr. Scott and proceed with the terms of that from here.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Canavan, can you do a roll call, please?
Certainly, Mr. Solari,
Aye.
Mr. Dang,
Aye.
Mr. Minkus,
Aye.
Mr. Leba,
Aye.
Ms. Lahan,
Aye.
Ms. Walmsley,
Aye.
Mr. Tong,
Aye.
Mr. Goodman is absent, and Ms. Snare.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Scott and Ms. Stark, for your attendance today. We look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is item 3I. This is discussion and consideration of possible action regarding a signed consent agreement in board case number 21-0443 involving Ultimed Inc. Board members, this was a case from a new applicant where we determined that there was shipping without a license. So Dr. Grandi, I don't know if you have anything to add, but this is a negotiated consent agreement, I believe, with Ultimed, correct?
That is correct. It's the only concern on the application is shipping without a permit. Everything else is in order. No other issues with that, with the application.
And if I'm understanding this correctly, there would be a fine of $10,000, and upon payment, then we would issue the permit, and they would be in good standing.
Correct. I believe you and I had discussed this, Ms. Walmsley.
Yes. Board members, any questions or discussion?
Madam Chair. Make a motion to accept the agreement with the terms as noted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Ganavan, can you do a roll call, please?
First, Mr. Solari,
Aye.
Mr. Dang,
Aye.
Mr. Minkus,
Aye.
Mr. Leba,
Aye.
Ms. Lehan,
Aye.
Ms. Walmsley,
Aye.
Mr. Tong,
Aye.
Mr. Goodman is absent, Ms. Snare.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next up is item 4I, complaint number 21-0528, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the results of an interim order for psychological evaluation with fitness for duty component and possible consideration of a proposed consent agreement relating to Zachary Sealander. Board members, a signed consent agreement was added for Mr. Sealander yesterday for probation. Is there any discussion or questions for staff on this item? I don't believe Mr. Sealander is present today.
What, I'm sorry, what was, I missed, what was the terms on the consent agreement?
So he would be on probation for a minimum period of 12 months. He's currently under the care of a nurse practitioner and a therapist. He would be required to continue to see those providers who he's already established a relationship with. They have to submit quarterly reports to the board, and he has to notify us and with changes in pharmacy employment status. And he has to take classes dealing with domestic violence and parenting.
Okay. That seems in line with the evaluator. I would move to approve the consent agreement.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Ganavan, can you take a roll call, please?
Certainly, Mr. Solari,
Aye.
Mr. Dang,
Aye.
Mr. Minkus,
Aye.
Mr. Leba,
Aye.
Ms. Lehan,
Aye.
Ms. Walmsley,
Aye.
Mr. Tong,
Aye.
Mr. Goodman is absent, and Ms. Snare.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you, Ms. Ganavan. I believe that takes us to the end of our business for today. Am I forgetting anything?
Is there a call to the public?
It's not noticed.
No, there's not.
All right. Did I get everything, Jennifer?
Yes, you did.
All right.
Appreciate the board meeting.
Yes, thank you all. Appreciate your time and attendance for the special meeting. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks.